Welcome back to another Sunday prep day. If you're new here, every Sunday I prep for the week. So that means cutting all my vegetables and making things that take a little bit longer. So I'm gonna make some vegetable soup today. So I don't prep whole meals, I just prep all the components for them just because I can still have the flexibility then and still have lunch or dinner on the table in minutes. So I'm gonna start off by cutting some onion for my soup, and I'm putting that in a big bowl because I'm gonna collect all the things for my soup in there. And I'll start off by going over my meal plan. And if you are new here, I am diabetic. I had to cut some carbs, so I mostly cut them from my lunches. So I usually have low carb, keto friendly lunches, except on the weekend when I have my cheat days. And I have some sandwiches. And you also won't really hear me mention breakfast because I don't really have breakfast. I'm just not a breakfast person. So with that out of the way, let's cut some more onions. This case is for a hutspot, which is a Dutch dish, a stamppot. So the meal plan for lunch today, I'm gonna have some sandwiches with some chicken breasts. And like I said, I don't usually have carbs for lunch except on the weekends, so I like sandwiches, so that's what I usually have on Sunday on my cheat day. Then for dinner tonight, I'm going to have some zuurkool stamppot or sauerkraut stamppot. If you don't know what a stamppot is, that's a classic Dutch dish. That is a vegetable, in this case sauerkraut, or zuurkool in Dutch, mixed with some potatoes. And I've been filming for the past couple of weeks a video where I make some different stamppot, and that will be coming out soon, I think. Probably this week or next week. So, because I film those as I go along. So, those always take a few weeks to film. So, but yeah, I'll have that with some smoked sausage. So, sauerkraut, potatoes, sausage. I'm just cutting up some more onions, in this case some red onions for a few different things. Then for Monday, I usually do meatless Mondays. I'm gonna have some soup for lunch, so I'll be prepping that today. Tomorrow, I just need to warm that through. And then for dinner on meatless Monday, I'm gonna have some vegan lentil tacos. I'm quite enjoying those. I've been having those a lot lately, or sometimes with beans instead of lentils. But yeah, the bulk of it will be lentils and carrots. And I'll use some tomato puree, some smoked paprika, lots of vegetables, like this red onion, for example. That will go in there as well. Then we're on Tuesday. I'm gonna have some green beans, probably with a pork chop, though I also have some sausages. I can use either. So we'll just see. That's the nice thing about just having different kinds of meat in the freezer. I can just take out whatever I need. So I have these small onions. They're like pearl onions or shallots. I'm just using these because I have a whole bunch of them left over still. I bought a big bag to make things like salsa, and I didn't use up all of them. So I'm just using these as regular onions, just to go through them. And then for Tuesday for dinner, I do Taco Tuesdays, and I'm gonna switch it up a little bit this time. I'm gonna go for Korean tacos. So that's ground beef, kimchi, soy sauce, sesame oil, sesame seeds, and things like that. So, one of the things I need for that is also some spring onion for the topping. I'll make a sriracha mayo to go with that. So, it's tacos, but not your typical Mexican tacos. which is a fun way to mix things up. By the way, the reason I do a lot of theme days, like Taco Tuesday, Meatless Monday, is basically because I'm cooking for just myself, and I have all the options in the world. I can make anything I want, and sometimes all the choices just overwhelm a little bit, and I don't know what I actually want. So by having some theme days, I just artificially limit myself a little bit, and it just makes planning easier. So it's just the decision fatigue, if I'm honest. Otherwise, so I'll just put these onions with the red onions because I'm just going to use them in the same things. And then I'm just going to take some garlic, 2 cloves, I'll just put in my soup whole. And these 2 cloves I'll chop up. So, and this will go in a couple of things like my lentil tacos, but also some Brussels sprouts, etc. Because, yeah, that's the next on the meal plan. Wednesday for lunch, I'm going to do a stir fry with some Brussels sprouts and lots of veggies and some bacon, like cubes of bacon. So, I'm not the biggest fan of Brussels sprouts when you just boil them or something, but sauteed, they're actually quite nice, especially with bacon. So it's one of my favorite ways to have Brussels sprouts. And they're in season now, so it's a good thing to use, because it's nice and cheap. Always eat with the seasons, it's most tasty and it's cheaper. And then here I have some spring onions, just a few leftovers. And I'm going to use them as a topping for my Korean tacos, and I'll probably put some on my lentil tacos as well, and I'll just throw them in or on as a garnish for whatever it needs. I'll just use those up. We're on Wednesday dinner. I'm going to make some hutspot, but I'm going to make it the classic way. So with, instead of potatoes like all stampot are nowadays, traditionally it was made with, what's it called? Parsnip. Because potatoes were not introduced to Europe yet. So I'll just do the classic way, and again, I'll do a pork chop or some sausage. Then here I have some celery that's going to go in my soup. I'm going to leave my soup whole, so I'm just cutting it relatively fine, like nice bite-sized pieces. So with the hutspot, that will be my 4th stampot for the video. Do you think that would be enough for an interesting video, or do you want to see some more options? I can make another one next week and make it 5. Just let me know what you're thinking. So that can go in with the other soup ingredients. Then what else do we have? On Thursday, I'm going to have some broccoli with some chicken. And on for dinner time, I'm going to have some noodles with some chicken. And I'll have some spicy green beans with that, etc. So I'll probably do like a bibimbap kind of thing with chicken. So in gochujang, and it should be very tasty. And I'll have that with some green beans, like I said. And I'll probably also have some pickles with that, but instead of a bibimbap, which is with rice, I'm just going to have it with some noodles, probably some rice noodles. So that probably does have a Korean name as well, because the bap in bibimbap just means rice. So there's probably a correct name with the noodles, but I don't speak Korean, so we'll just go with it's like a bibimbap, but with noodles. So I'm just cutting up these carrots for my soup, and again, I'm cutting it relatively fine just because I'm going to keep it whole. And for Friday, my meal plan for lunch, I'm going to do some salmon with some green beans. And I'm just going to grill that salmon in my Ninja Foodi. And then for dinner, I'm going to do a grain bowl. I've been really into grain bowls lately, either just oat rice or mixed grains. And I'll do that with some marinated fish. I'll probably do like some soy sauce or something like that. Some sesame oil. And again, I'll have that with some Romanesco or some broccoli or some green beans. I can change things up because I don't prepare the whole meals. So this one I'll just cut like this. But yeah, that's the meal plan. If you ever have any suggestions, by the way, just leave them in the comments. Like I said, sometimes decision fatigue does kick in, so it's always nice if someone has some suggestions. So that can go in there. And then for my hutspot, I need some more carrots. I'm not going to bother peeling because they're cleaned, like the skin is really thin. So ideally for hutspot, you use like a big carrot, but since I don't have that right now, I'll just cut these. Yeah, the traditional way for a hutspot is to use what we call vinterpeen or winter carrot. A carrot is a wortel or a peen. And I'm just going to cut this into some rough chunks like this. Well, roughly this size. It's going to stew down for a bit, so it can be quite chunky. And I'll just do 2 carrots. And that will go with the yellow onion that I cut earlier. And like I said, instead of with potatoes, I'm going to do that with parsnip. And if you use a big carrot, like I described the vinterpeen, because it's this thick around, you've probably seen me use those a few times. You can make really thick like batons out of that, like a really big julienne kind of thing. And that would be the traditional way. And as I mentioned that I'm going to use parsnip, I do need to peel some parsnips. And the reason I'm peeling these and not the carrot is partly because the skin is a lot thicker, and also aesthetics, because the skin is beige and the parsnip is white. I just want the white from the parsnip. So I'm just going to cut these in roughly the same size as my carrots. Yeah, this is like the perfect size. And that would be the perfect size for carrots as well as the parsnips. Next up for my soup, I have some parsley. And this time I'm going to leave it in because it's a vegetable soup and I'm not going to blend it. So I'm just going to give that a rough chop. Get rid of the stems. And that can go in a container as well. What do I have next? Some pepper. I'm using these pointy peppers. I think they're called Anaheim in English. We just call them puntpaprika or pointy pepper in Dutch. And I'm going to use this in my lentil tacos. I'm going to use these in my stir fry with Brussels sprouts, etc. And this time I'm just going to do some cubes. So I'm going to cut them lengthwise and then across. And then these chilies I'm going to use for the exact same thing as my peppers. So I have some cayenne and I have some jalapeno because just what I had. The cayenne I'm just going to chop up like that with the seeds in because they don't bother me. And as usual, the jalapenos, I'll just take the seeds out real quick because there's just a lot more seed and that white bit around the seed in there. And then I'll just dice them up by slicing them lengthwise and then across. Then next up, I have some potatoes. Those are for my sauerkraut stumppot tonight. So I'll just peel those real quick. And then I'll just cut them into chunks. Then next up, I have a whole bunch of green beans for like 3 meals this week. So I'm just going to top and tail the whole lot. And I think that is enough for now. Then next up, I have some broccoli. I'll do enough for 1 meal, so that's the rest of this. And I'll just cut these into bite-sized pieces. So that's 1 portion of broccoli. I'll save the stems for things like broccoli rice. And then here I have some Romanesco. And again, I'm just gonna cut off enough for 1 portion. And that's probably enough. I overdid it a little bit last week, I think. I had a lot of broccoli and Romanesco, but I went through it. It just meant I have to have some large portions of vegetables, which is not too bad. You cannot really have too many vegetables. So, last thing for chopping is these Brussels sprouts. I'm just going to clean them up a bit because they're not cleaned yet. If you buy them cleaned, you don't have to do this, but I'll cut off the little end, then the outer leaves will fall off, and I'll cut it in half. If you have really big ones, I know in the States you prefer like the large Brussels sprouts. Here we prefer the smaller ones or medium ones, but if you have the really large ones, just quarter them. And I'll just do this whole bunch. And this is for my stir fry, so I'll just have this with some bacon, some onion, garlic, things like that, peppers, chilies. But I'll just work my way through this whole bowl. And at 31 minutes, that's all my chopping done. So I'm just going to clean up a bit, and then I'll start making the soup. While I was putting things away, I did preheat my Ninja Foodi on saute. So I'm just going to add a bit of oil, and I'll add my soup ingredients. So that's onion, carrot, garlic, celery. I will add some salt and some pepper. And I'm just going to let those veggies soften for a bit. Now that the vegetables have softened, I'm going to add my parsley. Stir that in. And since I have some, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use a vegetable soup, stock cube. So put that in, add some water. And then I will add my pressure cook lid. And again, you can do this on the stove top. You can do this on a slow cooker. I just have a pressure cooker, so that's a lot quicker. And I'll just put this on 20 minutes. That should be enough for some soup. So let's just wait for that, and we'll close out the video. And that's the soup done. I just need to warm that through tomorrow, and that's a quick and easy meal. So, and that finishes all the prep work for this week. I can now have lunch or dinner on the table in minutes. And if you like this kind of content, I do this every single Sunday, and if you would like to see what I ultimately eat, you can check out my Instagram, where I post every single meal, and where you will also find written down the meal plan for this week and all the ingredients and stuff. And you can also check out the video that I post about once a month on here, where I show you everything I eat in a day for a whole week, and I'll post one again soon. So if that all sounds good to you, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye for now.